Welcome to Stories Behind the Objects, where we explore the history behind Museum of the Rockies artifacts in 5 minutes or less. Today we're looking at a ghost of downtown Bozeman's past, the city's former jail/firehouse/city hall/library/opera house. That's right, Bozeman had an opera house, which held a brief but important place in the city's cultural landscape from 1890 through 1927. The artifact you see here is the building's original stained glass transom window. During Bozeman's early building boom, the downtown area saw substantial development. In May of 1887, residents were asked to vote on funding for a joint opera house/city hall. Why a joint opera house-city hall? There's no record of specific reasons behind that decision, but in 1888, the local newspaper wrote that a city hall and opera house are absolutely needed, and their completion will prove an honor to our city. Bozeman residents clearly agreed, as the project continually ran into funding shortfalls during the 3 years it took to construct the building, and each time the voters passed additional funding measures. The building was located on the corner of Rouse and Main Streets and was 3 stories tall. The first floor included jail cells for men and women, space for city officials and employees, the fire department, and an assembly room. The second and third floors were occupied by the Opera House, which could seat approximately 675 people. On the roof was a bell tower for the fire department alarm. The city library would also move into the second floor of the building a year later in 1891, moving out in 1903 when the Carnegie Library building was completed. The lights dimmed for the first concert at the Opera House on September 19, 1890, when a group of local musicians played a benefit to raise money for stage curtains and scenery. Here you can see an example of the scenery used at the Opera House. This backdrop is actually also in the museum's collection. This is a hand-painted backdrop recreated from an image taken by local photographer Albert Schlechten around 1911. MOR also has that original glass plate negative of the image, which was taken on the Madison River. For the next 2 decades, many local and traveling performances, concerts, and shows played at the Opera House. According to some sources, the quality of the shows varied from excellent to trash. Everyone's a critic. The Opera House also hosted high school graduation ceremonies, political rallies, moving picture shows, funerals, and other local events and celebrations. The building was not without its flaws. The roof constantly leaked, it was too short to accommodate traveling scenery, and the actors complained about the dressing rooms, which were only 5.5 feet tall. In 1898, a new flat roof was built to fix the leaks and increase the space for scenery. You can see the difference in the building exterior here. And you can see the stained glass window still located above that front entrance. The new century brought new technology, and after a banner year in 1905 to 06, the Opera House began a slow decline for the next 2 decades. As movie houses became popular, the Opera House drew fewer and fewer crowds. Local events were still held at the Opera House. However, visits by touring theater companies were decreasing, and during World War I, they stopped altogether. Question: is an opera house still an opera house if it houses no opera? During and after World War I, the Opera House hosted some unconventional events to try and sustain itself. Boxing bouts and wrestling matches were briefly featured, and in the early 1920s, the National Guard rented out the now rundown Opera House to drill in. The last performance at the Opera House was a Montana State College production of the play The Importance of Being Earnest in May of 1927. Soon after, the Opera House was deemed structurally unsound and its doors were closed to the public. City business would continue on the first floor for several more decades. A large earthquake in 1959 further damaged the building, and eventually a new city hall was constructed, and in 1965 this building was demolished. Luckily, the city of Bozeman saved the transom window, eventually donating it to the museum, where it serves as a reminder of Bozeman's metropolitan dreams, commercial development, and long history of citizen support for the arts.